After reading Rick Moody's novel on family life in the 1970s, producer-screenwriter James Schamus brought The Ice Storm to director Ang Lee. The two had worked together on films like The Wedding Banquet, Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, and Sense and Sensibility. The adaptation of The Ice Storm won a Best Screenplay Award at Cannes and is getting strong notices from critics. It stars Kevin Kline, Sigourney Weaver, and Joan Allen. And here is a clip. Joining me now, The Ice Storm's director Ang Lee, producer and screenwriter James Schamus, and the author of the novel, Rick Moody. I just asked as we came out of that clip, did that exact dialogue come out of the novel, and you can't remember?
No, the truth is I can't remember. The scene, there's a scene very like it in the novel, but I can't remember exactly how the dialogue
Does the
goes.
screenwriter know?
I don't remember either.
Does the director know?
But somehow it's on the script, so I directed.
Yeah. Tell me why you wanted to do this, and what is the story that you want to tell here?
It's family drama, you know. It's really right in my alley, except it's on the other side, it's the flip side of the movies I used to do, which is about characters in one hand try to obey the social code, on the other hand try to free from the restraint.
Good people wanting to be bad.
Good people want to be bad, and this novel is about bad people want to be good. They're not
No,
really
what is it
bad.
about? What is it really about?
It's a social code in 1973 is rather interesting to me. It's about hip. It's about liberating. It's really the aftermath, the hangover of the 60s. And you can see people are not quite comfortable in there. They feel naked. They have this need of reserved.
Yeah.
They need to be good, which is really the beginning of us today, I think. So that's like really the opposite side of what I used to do.
And where are we today, you think?
I think we're a little better off. You know,
Yeah,
not because we're smarter, we know the consequences.
But we
of
need
what
to be
happened.
good, is that what you just said?
Yeah, I think so.
No, that makes sense.
I don't mean to be preachy.
No, that's okay. It's not preachy. What did you see in the story that you wanted to tell as a producer-screenwriter?
I think the first thing was that there was something essentially cinematic about how embarrassing 1973 is, in particular for Americans.
Yeah. It's a year after Watergate.
It's the year, after Watergate breaks, and the hearings are kind of in the air during the whole course of the movie. The clothes look funny, the sideburns, the hair, and also a certain sense of, I'd just say, in general, embarrassment about being American. We're losing the war in Vietnam, all that stuff. And so it really took me back to a childhood which I could relate to as a child, depicted in the book. But even more so, it made me empathize a little bit with the parents, too, since I'm a parent now in the 90s, and I could see it from both generations' point of view, which was kind of fun.
Having said all that, tell me what the story is, since you wrote the novel.
Oh, what it is. I mean, I think it's a story about...
What's the storyline, I guess I'm asking?
Oh, a pair of couples in New Canaan in 1973 passed the night after Thanksgiving in the midst of a terrific storm, which actually happened in Connecticut in 1973.
But it's more than that.
Well, many consequences. There's a lot of infidelity, use and abuse of various substances, some legal, some illegal, and in the process a lot of encounters with why relationships are meaningful and how they might best be articulated.
Yeah, and it's about parents and children.
Absolutely.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the sexuality is a reflection of what?
Well, in 1973, the sexual revolution, as it's called by critics of such things, had trickled down from wherever it began to the suburbs. And so there were sort of new definitions of how one might conduct a family and how one might conduct a marriage that were being taken up and investigated by families and couples, outside of sort of the cutting edge, right in the middle of America. And that's the period that the book and the film try to tackle.
Easy to adapt?
Incredibly difficult to adapt.
Why?
Well, bad books are easy to adapt because you're adapting them because you think you can do a better job than the writer did.
Right.
Good books are hard to adapt because you're constantly feeling as though you're conducting some form of treachery to something you love. It was really hard, that part of it. Also,
Some kind of amputation that you don't want to do.
Yeah, you're basically sawing through a lot of stuff that will never make its way to the screen and hoping some remnant of why you were originally interested in the book will make its way up there.
So are you happy with it?
I am. I'm quite happy with it.
You know, he did justice to your brilliant novel.
I've said in public, and I'll say again, I think in some ways that the film is better than the book.
I know you said that. That's what I was leading to. Why do you think that?
Well, the book was written with some effort to get at aspects of my own autobiography in a probing, incisive way. And as a result, as with many such early novels in a writer's career, it's incredibly angry, I think. And to me, the film softens the edges a little bit, disperses responsibility throughout the families rather than pinpointing the parents as the problem, and contains some really sympathetic performances that, for me, make it more generous to that time than I was.
You came to the United States from Taiwan, 1978?
Yes, that's correct.
Because?
For further study, that was a trendy thing to do. After college, just go abroad for further study. Most of us come to America. I never planned to stay.
You never did?
I never did until when I graduated, my student film won an award, and agent persuaded me to stay.
Do you accept this notion that sometimes people from beyond our shores are best able to explain us to ourselves?
I don't know, but I think it's easier probably for us to see the whole picture. Like when you're on the moon, you see the globe is, the Earth is globe, but where we're sitting here,
and
it's
you also
harder.
see it fresh.
Fresh with detachment, and as long as you have sympathy, you have a very fresh point of view, and I don't have the anger, so to speak, that you have. It's easier for me to make art out of it, but the texture have to catch up, and emotion have the sympathy, the renaissance of sympathy that I have to really catch up.
All of the actors, Joan Allen, Kevin, Sigourney, say that they've never seen anybody give them as much preparation as you. I specifically read Joan Allen said this, that you presented them with a huge 3-ring bound book that explored what the 70s were about, both in terms of every custom dress, hair, movies, and you watched all the old television shows, what movies we were watching at the time, what the magazines were like at the time, and what the commercials. Is that true?
It's quite true. That's basically I share my homework with them, and in hoping to seduce the best out of them. And I ask them to do homework as well. It's actually helping me more than helping them. To me, in one way, making movies about the actors come to you, to the movie. On the other hand, you have to bring the movie to them. So it looks like all of us is in one movie. So that's one way of me learning not only the characters, but also to learn them, the actors I'm dealing with, because they only see from their own perspective. It's a lot richer than I could perceive. So I don't know how much that's helpful for the actors, but I basically share my homework with them and ask them to do feed me back, and I really enjoy it, and I learn a lot from that.
Tell me about the nature of the collaboration between the two of you.
Oh, me. Yeah. Well, we started together on Ang's first film, Pushing Hands, and at that point, it was really focused on production, and it was a very low-budget film. It cost $350,000 to make. And I helped a little bit with Ang's English. Is that right?
That's correct.
But we really had a lot of fun. We moved into The Wedding Banquet and Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, and these were scripts that we worked on in a decidedly independent context, but to which we were bringing a very, almost you might say, old-fashioned Hollywood sensibility. There's a sense of screwball comedy and structure there that Hollywood doesn't do that much these days, and that we had a lot of fun getting into. So we really got from there into a place now where we've come back to Hollywood and are making decidedly non-Hollywood movies that look more like independent movies or European films within that context.
But is there a certain special chemistry between the two of you that enables you to collaborate so well?
Yeah, he bothers me into writing, and then I harass him continuously on set to stay on budget.
A different idea about this?
It's pretty correct.
Sum it up reasonably
Actually,
well.
what he said is quite treacherous. Usually, when author bother you on set, that's pretty intolerable. And he's pretty good at stay away from the writing part of it and just from the producer. He's one who says cutting scenes instead of keeping scenes. And I was the one. Once he talked me into something, there's no taking me away from it. So I think it's good chemistry. And basically, James to me is a walking encyclopedia Whatever I don't know in American, I ask him.
And he knows it or experienced it or something.
Or I call my wife and she tells me.
Somehow I get to know it.
The stories that you want to tell are about family or about what? I mean, is there a common denominator of what interests you?
They're really about, I was using family in a changing society kind of texture. Use family as a microcosm in terms of examining humanity in a dramatic, changing period context. That's what I'm interested in the most.
Okay, here's another scene from the film. Take a look. Casting. Easy choices for you?
I started out from Kevin, just my old habit to cast around Dad, although he doesn't have to carry a movie.
Yeah.
It's a really ensemble piece. I started from him anyway. I thought I need somebody who's a comedian, likable comedian, but who can do dramatic role. And Kevin, of course, is more than that. He's an accomplished Shakespearean actor. So I cast him first. Then he's best friend of Sigourney's, and she read the script, came to us, which is a blessing to us. And the rest is...
Oh, she came and said, I'd like to do this.
Yeah, I want to do Jenny.
Yeah.
And like...
No protest from you.
No, not at all. It's a blast. And then the rest of the cast is basically regular procedures, reading,
right.
interviewing.
Do you two collaborate on casting? Or is this just a director's prerogative?
Oh, we collaborate quite a bit. It's the director's decision, as in all things. But that's where Ang is very different from a lot of other directors. He's very good at listening to everybody, or at least pretending he is, in such a way that when he finally makes up his mind, everyone's along for the ride.
Now, where were you while they were making this movie?
Oh, you know, at home in Brooklyn. I went to see the
Did you
set.
hang out at all around the set?
2 days I went out to watch them shoot, but as most people know, it's not that it's not that exciting. But you know, watching Ang do his job.
They do the same thing over and over.
Yeah, watching Ang do his job is really interesting to see a real artist work with this kind of material. But you know, the first day I was there for 5 hours and I saw one shot, so that was plenty.
That's enough to say I'm not coming back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Are you there?
I was there for a lot of it. Yeah. My partner Ted Hope, who's an active part of this team, really picked up the ball. I had another daughter born right before the filming started, so I had an excuse to stay home occasionally.
Did you rely on your own personal experiences in terms of what you brought to this story? I mean, has your experience growing up in Taiwan, does it inform your view of the world?
I have an indirect experience about what the movie's character go through. You know, Taiwan was pretty much synced with Americans in terms of political, weather, fashions, and movies, television, what have you. But I wasn't growing up here, so I have to do a lot of adaptations. What I could bring in is dramatic skill and also my initial feeling about the material. And that is very universal. That's the subtext. But from the texture, I have to learn quite a bit here and listen to people, and as Jim said, and make up my mind, which is a hard thing to do because everybody's their personal story. Everybody gives you their opinion and experience, and who do you listen to?
How do you feel yourself changing as a director? Growing, evolving?
I think I'm doing more refined shots, things, styles. I think I'm more skillful directors.
Do you study other directors? Do you watch movies from a clinical standpoint?
No, not really. I think after film school, I sort of stopped doing that. I think what really influenced me is life experience. That's first-handed.
So you're looking for your take on life and knowing that you know how to capture it on camera.
Yeah.
If you get the actors to capture what's...
Yeah. I got this bad habit when I watch film, I was watching what they're doing. I was less moved than when I was younger.
Watching with your brain rather than your heart.
Right, yeah. It's not such a thrilling thing anymore, but I think life is more interesting than movie, just to me.
Life is more interesting than movies.
I think so.
I think so, too. This is the New York Times over the weekend, or maybe a week ago. Arriving from afar to get inside America. We like positioning on this story. We like the color photograph from the movie. Ang Lee joins a growing list of film directors from abroad who are working in the United States and interpreting the country with a fresh eye. It is remarkable when you look at just the summer movies. People from Wolfgang Peterson, I guess, did Air Force One. John Woo did Face Off.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, why is that?
Well, I think it's a number of things. One is the Hollywood machine has gotten so global that, in fact, these are directors who mean something for their marketplaces overseas. And these are directors that have been sucked into the system in ways that you haven't really seen since the 1930s, when a lot of the German Jewish directors, from Fritz Lang and Billy Wilder, came over as the Nazis were rising in power. Hollywood's been able to absorb always a lot of world culture and reconfigure it in ways that look a lot like Air Force One. What makes Ang so special is that they haven't gotten to him yet on that level. He's gotten to them. I think Ang's come into the States and has really maintained, probably through his position as an independent filmmaker here in New York, a real respectable distance from that machine. And I think that's what makes his film so different.
Anything?
There's another aspect to this question that's really fascinating, which is that I think the sort of arguments of cultural difference that say a man from Taiwan couldn't understand a story about New Canaan in 1973, those arguments turn out to be overstated, and that actually some of these themes, good storytelling in general, addresses themes that can be cross-cultural. And I think Ang really understands this book, even though he wasn't there, because the issues presented are human issues.
A man having an affair with his neighbor because the husband is away is cross-cultural easily.
Yeah.
I don't know, did that happen in Tainan in the 1950s? I don't know.
What I think is amazing about the film, and having not seen it but having read about it and that dialogue, is the kids and the relationship with the kids. That's what really is intriguing to me. Yeah. And the I mean, just seeing Wendy there in that little scene at the meal.
I think if we'd set the film in the 1990s, as somebody once suggested we do for budgetary reasons, would have made it a completely miserable experience. I think the kids act in many ways the same way kids act today, but it means something completely different. When Wendy looks at her dad in that clip, after she's just given this Thanksgiving prayer that has shocked him into moving on, that's a look that in 1973 was rather audacious, whereas I think in 1997 it's her job as a teenager to look that way. That's expected behavior.
Having said all that, we leave you with one last tape. Thank you, guys, very much. Pleasure to see you.
Right, thank you.
I'm a great admirer. Take a look at this clip, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.